Okay, we're going to get started here. Welcome to week 2, live lecture 1. Again, I had to rearrange the schedule for our lecture. I apologize in advance. I did send all of you guys an email and also an announcement about this, and my throat's a little raspy today. I'm sorry about that. So hopefully you got that. We're starting pretty early. It's about 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so if you're Mountain Time, you are starting at 6. So again, most of you guys will probably be listening to the recording, which is fine. You know, you guys get the information and that you need and go forward with your projects. We will be meeting at regular time for the multi-session. If you are available and would like to come in, the multi-session again is not mandatory. It's just for you to have an opportunity to check in and, you know, ask any questions that you may have. And also, you know, if you want to see a demo again or anything else that is concerning you, you definitely can come in and during the times of the multi-session. My multi-session is open to anybody in this course, and it is from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, so it'll be tomorrow evening, just kind of a heads up there. All right, just a few things to go over with week 2 agenda list here. Just setting up announcements. We'll take a look at what's going on this week. Psychology of color, we'll be talking about the CRAP design principles you guys will be discussing. I was just curious on how you guys thought, what you guys thought about the Packback discussion board, because you guys are, this is pretty much being tested in this course just to see how everybody, how it goes. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's pretty interesting how you're not really answering a true question. You're coming up with your own question, and you know, it's kind of a great insight into what you guys are interested in knowing and learning. So hopefully you guys, you know, are enjoying that, or, you know, seeing some benefits from that, the new discussion platform for sure. We'll be doing the same thing for this discussion, although we'll have a different topic, of course. You know, so think about questions that relate to the topic and how you can bring in what you believe, what you're most curious about. That's kind of the goal behind that. And, you know, post that question and have it so that it's not, you know, so open-ended, but, you know, you have specifics in there. All right, color review, if time, the 4 color relationships: complementary, triadic, analogous, and split complementary. We kind of went over that in week 1, but if we have time, we can definitely do a review. And then we're going to take a look at your assignment 2 and assessment 2 today. I think you guys will really enjoy this assignment. I think it's a kind of a neat, it's an interesting project in how you guys go step by step through it in regards to applying color. All right, so let's go forward here. Due dates. So just a little reminder, everything is due by this Saturday before midnight for full credit. Communication regarding late work is key in this course, so make sure you're getting back to me about, you know, if something has come up, you know, contact me as soon as possible. This will save you missed points. Week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. And the original discussion post is due by Wednesday. Again, this is all pretty standard from what you're used to. So hopefully there's no big surprises here. So 2 responses to student discussions are due by Saturday by midnight. You must post on at least 2 different days, and late discussion posts will not be accepted past Saturday deadline for the week. There's a reason for that. Nobody's going to be going back and looking at the old discussions, so definitely get that in when it's due. All right, so our typical live sessions are usually Wednesday from 6 to 8. I don't know. I think we did one of those so far. Maybe not. Maybe got a little revised here due to my schedule. I apologize again, but our live sessions from here on out are Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And again, multi-sessions are Thursday, 6 to 8. Excuse me. And again, they're open for students to come in, for you guys to come in with assignment problems and questions or one-on-one tutoring. This gives you ample time during the week to get the assignments done. Any outside help needed, you have the Student Success Center. It's open for tutoring, and no appointment is necessary. So definitely check that out if you need extra help. You know, sometimes we do. We need extra help, and it's definitely here for you guys. Okay, so let's go ahead. Before I get into this, let's go ahead and look at Canvas here. I just wanted to go over a few things before we get into the psychology of color. All right, so we're going to go into week 2. Let's take a look at the objectives here. And these are, the learning objectives are pretty much what you guys should be accomplishing each week. So for week 2, the overview for the learning objectives are differentiate between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color models. So you guys should be able to know the differences between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK. You know, when to use them, what they are, etc. Identify and apply the correct use of swatches and color libraries. Discuss the role color plays in the big 4 design principles. So you have your contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. You're going to analyze how color is used to create consistency in a print campaign. And identify and apply correct resolution for print output. That's kind of important. So, you know, definitely these are things that you guys should be walking away from this week as far as accomplishing and learning. And it's important to go over these just so we understand where we're going in each week here. I did want to go over the discussion before we get into all the other stuff going on my slides here. So let's read through this. And again, this is a pack-back discussion. If you are not sure how to get in here still, just go to your side panel here where it says backpack question. This is the week 4 discussion 2, or week 2 discussion 2 area, which you need to also review because this is what you should read through first, and then you go into your pack-back question second to create your question for answer in your discussion. All right, so the background. Every visual composition involves a foreground-background relationship. The relationship between the foreground or subject and the area that surrounds it is extraordinarily important. Contrast, one of the 4 big principles of design, dictates whether the foreground and background relationships is working well or failing. If there's enough contrast between the color of typography and the background it is placed upon, we can read it. If they're too similar in shade or hue, reading can be difficult. Too much contrast, for example, complementary colors can also create issues. For example, if you have red type on a green background, it tends to vibrate, making the text difficult to read. I showed an example on that in week 1 slide, by the way, so you definitely check that out. Contrast can be defined in many ways, but primarily contrast means change or difference. As described above, it can create the relationship between foreground and background. So color contrast is also one of the primary ways graphic designers create focal points. Too much color contrast, for example, too many different colors within a layout leads to confusion, while too few color contrast creates a flat design with no focal points. So you have to strike that balance there. A couple of ways that you can create color contrast are changing the temperature and the saturation. Color temperature refers to how warm or cool a color is. Often colors like red and orange and yellow are viewed as warm colors, while green, blue, purple are cool colors. You can also have variation in color temperature within individual hues. So paleo blue is considered a warm blue, whereas ultramarine blue would be a cool blue. If most of the colors in your design are cool, then adding a warmer color will make it stand out, or vice versa. Saturation refers to how vivid or dull a color is. Increasing the saturation of your foreground while dulling down the colors of your background is one method that can help create separation and focus. Another design principle that can be employed effectively by using color is repetition. Repetition is when an element such as a shape or color is repeated within a design. So we're just kind of reviewing here. Repeating elements can tie the various parts of a design together and create unity. So excess repetition, however, can become very boring. So you want to kind of, have a balance there. Pairing repetitive use of color with a few color contrasts can create a very successful layout as well. The third principle of design is alignment, and it has less direct relation to color. And alignment is the structure behind how objects are arranged on the page. Often a grid system is employed to make sure objects line up in a way that helps your design feel organized and connected rather than haphazard. While color on its own does not affect whether objects are aligned in a literal sense, colors, and especially the way they contrast with each other, can affect the balance of a design and the way you choose to align objects. So for example, if you had a larger, lighter colored shape, like the background for a text box, and a smaller, darker colored shape like a call-out, the way that those contrasting colors and sizes balance with each other would affect how you align your layout. And the final principle of design is proximity, and that is how to group similar objects in order to create a relationship between them. While this is generally done spatially by grouping objects closer together, you can also bring in the principle of repetition and use similar colors to further pull those objects together visually. Here's a good tip. If you squint at the poster design you choose, low contrast palette has the same tonal range when you squint at it, while a high contrast palette will range from very dark to very light. Squinting allows you to look at tonal aspects of a design without seeing the design elements themselves, and is a useful tool for discerning when contrast is needed or overdone. So for example, if you squint at the photo at the top of the page, you will find it's predominantly low contrast and monochromatic. Excuse me. The eye is drawn to the framed type on the page by the stark contrast of pure black on white as compared to the gray surroundings. There is a contrast in the texture of the bricks to the smoothness of the frame typed as well. Repetition is used in the brick shape, creating a background for the picture. The tonal range of the other elements of the photo are very similar, which is repetition at work. The photographer is using the red cup as a secondary focal point by creating contrast in color. So this is let me zoom in here. This is the picture that they're referring to. So go ahead and squint your eyes. What kind of jumps out at you? You know, pretty much the words really pop. When you squint your eyes, everything else kind of blurs together and kind of blends away. Okay, so we talked about all of the principles that CRAP principles, I should say, of design, their purpose, and why we use them. So here's your prompt for the discussion for week 2. So look at the information provided at this website, so you're going to click on that, and think about the posters in terms of color. So consider contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Thinking about that, you know, what makes it work? What about it where's the contrast at? Does it work? Does it have enough contrast? Is there repetition being shown here? How so? Alignment, what's going on here? Is it aligned? Is there a grid structure? Maybe it's not. Proximity, is it, you know, kind of describe how the elements are using that principle. You might also consider questions like, what makes these poster designs great? Or maybe what makes it work, I would say, because great is kind of subjective. Objective is, you know, what makes these poster designs effective? By whose standards are these considered great or effective? Do you agree that they are effective or great? Okay, so those are some of the questions that you can consider. Okay, you know, and this is pretty much your reply requirements. You guys can read through that, but make sure you're hitting upon those for your discussion. Let me click on here just to show you what this website looks like. So you're going to look at the information provided on this website and think about the posters in terms of color. Okay, so here are some of the posters. Let me zoom out. You might want to squint your eyes and see kind of what pops out, and discuss that in your post question if that's kind of where you're going. There's another one. Some really cool posters going on here with type and color and hierarchy and all the principles of design going on. That's some cool stuff. That's kind of neat. like a movie poster here, fine prints. So some really interesting stuff, and you know, what works about these? What makes it so great? Why are these so effective? So you might want to bring up, you know, maybe one principle in your question, your post question, that maybe you're more curious about or had a question about in your discussion. You know, maybe proximity is one that you need to work on. So you ask a question about that. That's a really nice one too. Typography one. Dave Matthews Band, that's pretty neat. And definitely a DMB fan, so that's pretty cool. There's some really neat posters and visual elements going on with a lot of these gestalt, negative, positive space. Pretty inspirational just to kind of see different styles and ways of creating a visual interest here. And what's neat about this is it actually goes and explains each one of these U-shapes that will attract interest. For this one, here's call to action, a clever composition, dramatic and energizing elements for this one. So they, you know, they go into a little detail. It's not just showing the images, creative illustrations, minimalist posters, art movement, inspirations. The different art movements shown in posters here, kind of cool. Pretty interesting. Definitely worth looking at here. Maybe, you know, bookmarked for sure to get inspiration, and kind of interesting stuff going on here. Typography. Yeah, so look through there. What works? You know, you might even want to pull one out of here for an example. Like, say you want to talk about, let me go back here, sorry. Say you want to go talk about this one. Pull that off. Put it in your discussion. Go back to your questions in here. Okay, and create your ask a new question, and go ahead and, you know, type in your question here, and then you can add in images here. So you can add that image in here. So let me pull that off and I'll show you. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to just drag and drop it on my desktop and send this. Hello, everyone. And then start answering your question. I think that, okay. And then just click on your image. Insert image. Oh, it looks like it's a URL. Okay. I'm glad I clicked on that because I didn't know that you had to have a URL in there. Let me see if there's anything other ways to do this. Insert image. Okay, let me click on the actual picture itself and maybe I can get a link. Just copy and paste this link in here. Well, let me do it. Okay, so maybe you can put pictures in here unless you have a link. Interesting. Let's try this. Oh, no, it's just a link. All right. Is there an attachment? No. Okay. Interesting. Let me see if I can drag and drop it real quick. Nope, can't drag and drop it. Okay. So you can't do the pictures unless, you know, I'm in Firefox right now, so I'm thinking maybe maybe Google Chrome shows it differently. I can definitely try that. I want to ask about that because, you know, it would be nice to have visual examples in here, especially with you know, design students. So let me get back to you guys on that. Not sure why. Huh, interesting. Okay, so, maybe kind of wait on that till you hear from me, but you definitely can put the source in here. So I could put this link and cite a source in here because, that's kind of where we're pulling it from. If you're, if you are able to place in an image in here, which I can't for some reason. So if I can't, you probably can't. But I want to try Google Chrome as well. All right, so that's pretty much for your discussion. You guys will be discussing, go back here, discussing the posters and what makes them work. But you guys can be asked these questions. What makes these poster designs effective? By whose standards are these considered effective? Questions like that are good because then you can answer them in ways that you're using the design principles to answer those questions, okay? So that's a key hint there for you guys if you're struggling with coming up with a question, okay? All right, so hopefully you guys are good with that. Let's go forward and talk about the psychology of the logo color because we're going to be for your assignment 2, we're going to be actually changing the logo colors, excuse me, for the appropriate logo itself that is given to you guys. Okay, here's a little tidbit here. 84.7% of consumers cite color as the primary reason they buy a particular product. I don't know about you guys. I'm a visual person. We're designers. I don't know. I get attracted by packages and labels, and color is definitely a big part of persuading the consumer, and I know it is for me. So 84.7, that's pretty high. That's pretty high percentage. So that can make or break a particular product and its persuasion to buy into it. So very, very strong principle that you definitely want to get right. So according to research compiled by web design and marketing company Web Page FX, people make a subconscious judgment about a product in less than 90 seconds of viewing. And a majority of these people base that assessment on color alone. That's pretty strong. In fact, almost 85% of consumers cite color as the primary reason they buy a particular product. And 80% of people believe color increases brand recognition. So one of the bigger design elements that is very important to get right. Let's talk about the psychology of logo color and the primary colors we're going to be looking at here. So here's red, just a little review. When we think about red, and why we're going over this is because you want to make sure that you're choosing the right color for the brand or project that you're working on. If you're using something that's going against what it's all about, then obviously it's not going to work. So when you're talking about red, there's certain characteristics about this color in regards to personality and emotions, politics, marketing, and other miscellaneous things. This one just happens to be chakras shown on here in this slide. So personality and emotions, when you think about red, it evokes strong emotions. It's a very bold color. It encourages appetite. So if you think about it, think about all the restaurants you've been into. There's probably, especially fast food restaurants, they utilize the color red a lot, like McDonald's, for example. Pizza Hut, Red Lobster, different restaurants like that. Increases passion and intensity, so if you were, Red Cross is a good one. Red Cross is definitely, utilizing the color red for that purpose as well. Red roses symbolize love. So there's a lot of personality and emotions that come with the colors as well. Politics worldwide represents socialist parties or communists, and then U.S. used for Republicans. It's always good to see kind of the different angles too, especially if you're you're working on a project that's more global. And what I mean by that, or universal, is, it's not just being shown in the United States, it's, kind of around the world. You want to make sure that you're aligning your colors appropriately for the target audience and the culture that you're designing for. Marketing for red means increases heart rate. So if you really want to get the attention in regards to that, you would definitely use red. If it's an emergency, used by restaurants to stimulate appetite. Creates urgency, often seen in clearance. If you walk into a store, you might see, some red tags or signs that pull you into, I need to be over here. This is a sale going on here. Red sale sign, that's where I go. So, it's like easy to see, and it pulls you right into where you want to go. Save some money. Used for impulsive shoppers. So, if you're designing for a particular store, say signage, you might be using red a lot. So it's kind of a very bold color. You want to make sure you're using it for the appropriate reasons. You don't want to, have something that's, maybe made for a spa and use red on it, because that's, you want to evoke calm when you're in a spa. So if you're making, say, for instance, a product for a spa, you might be more on the cooler end of the scale for your colors. If you're into any type of yoga, meditation stuff, this is kind of what this is referring to here, the chakra, the root chakra. Pretty much is talking about the 7 nervous system points in your body. So the root chakra is red, and it's located at the base of the spine. It's related to survival, safety, and physical self. So it kind of all links together in regards to the characteristics of red and how it evokes a feeling from looking at it. And very powerful for sure. Here's some red logos to look at. So here's McDonald's, Target, Kmart, all the ones that utilize red here. Interesting to see in a variety. Adobe, Toyota. And think about the appropriateness of those. Are they appropriate for the brand? Okay, the next one is yellow. So we're just looking at primary colors here. Yellow comes with the personality and emotions, increases cheerfulness and warmth, causes fatigue and strain on eyes. Very important to know. So you really want to balance that out. You don't want to use a ton of yellow if you want somebody to really read into something for a while. It makes babies cry, so don't paint their whole room yellow. Stimulates mental processes and nervous system, and encourages communication. Which kind of reminds me, do you guys remember the yellow tablets that they still make? They're just tablets that are yellow and they have the lines across them. Those were actually made yellow for a reason, to spark up your mental processes, stimulates and kind of stimulates the processes of your creativeness, encourages communication. So there is a reason behind that color for that actual paper pad. In politics, it represents liberalism, tongue twister there. In marketing, it represents optimism, youthfulness, used to grab attention of window shoppers, shows clarity. And again, back to the whole chakra thing. Chakra, solar plexus chakra, located in upper abdomen between navel and sternum. I'm having a problem saying certain words today. I apologize. Related to personal power and will and self-esteem. So good to know how this kind of affects different sections here, and how maybe you could use it possibly for your project. Here's some yellow logos. There's IKEA, Denny's, Best Buy. Yellow is also, and I want to bring this up too, can represent kind of a more economical approach. And what I mean by that is, when you see it in, say a brand in yellow, it has that look of, okay, I'm going to save money. it's like one of those cost-saving type colors. You know, yellow, I think, and orange are kind of similar in that regards. So it's more economical based. It depends on the logo too. You can have an affluent logo in yellow as well. So maybe, you know, it would be a more expensive brand using yellow, but typically brands that are in yellow are, you know, a little bit more economical in terms of, you know, when you walk in there, the products won't be that expensive. You're going to save some money. So just kind of a little food for thought there. All right, blue is the next primary color. We're going to talk about personality and emotions associated with water and peace. So remember when I said if you had a product that you were going to make for a spa, you probably would go more towards the cooler end of the spectrum of colors. So associated with water and peace, that'd be perfect for a spa color. Most preferred by men. Interesting. I don't know if that's factual based, but I think, yeah, obviously we all grow up with that whole pink and blue thing. Maybe not so much anymore, but, you know, it's kind of like how I grew up. So blue is always kind of, you know, what the boys tended to like, and pink was, you know, what the girls always tended to like. But you know what? I like blue. So I think it's definitely could be more, you know, neutral for now. Represents calmness and serenity. But it kind of gives you an idea of if you're designing something that's targeted more towards a male-based audience, you're not going to use the color pink, you know, so kind of like a no-brainer there. Okay, so calmness and serenity curbs appetite. Interesting. So I actually had, I was teaching color theory the other mod, and there was a study done on the color blue, and if you're looking to lose some weight, which is kind of interesting, psychologists actually had a test done where they put a blue light bulb in replace of the regular light bulb in your refrigerator. And that has been known to decrease your appetite, so you don't go in and eat as much. Now, I don't know if that's completely true, but that's kind of the study that they did, and they said it worked. Another thing is when you go to a restaurant, restaurants typically don't serve food on a blue plate because it makes some of the food not look appetizing either. So kind of interesting to learn the psychology behind it. Known as a cold color, increases productivity and used in office settings. So that would be good for that. Politics worldwide represents conservative parties, and then in the USA, used for Democrats. In marketing, often used in corporate business because it is productive and non-invasive. So it's very, you know, could be used for more corporate aspects of a brand. Creates a sense of security and trust in a brand. So that's pretty significant. And then in meditation, again, in the whole meditation yoga type aspect, the chakra, the throat chakra is blue, and that's the base of the throat. It relates to communication, truth, and self-expression. So very interesting to see the connections between each of these colors in relation to their emotions, personality, in politics, marketing, and also in other aspects of our lives. Here's some blue logo examples here. Facebook, Oreos, Walmart, Vimeo, Pepsi, Lowe's, LinkedIn, Twitter, Ford, has a JP Morgan, Flickr, GE, American Express. Very cool. All right, so the CRAP principles of graphic design, we're going to talk about these as well. So we just went over your primary colors, kind of the characteristics and personalities of all of them. Now let's take a look at your principles of graphic design, because this is what we're going to be discussing in your discussions for this week. So contrast is the first letter of your principles of graphic design, CRAP. Contrast means if there's two elements that are different, make those differences striking. So here's an interesting little illustration from Mad Men, which is a television series. And using that contrast to the 100% degree here, you know, they're using these very contrasted images and illustrations with type and blocks of color to really make it kind of pop. And that definitely works. You have repetition, which is represented by the letter R, and use repeated elements to direct, organize, and structure. This could be a pattern, you know, just like on the back of those cards there. You see the lines and repeating elements. That kind of allows you to kind of allow the eye to flow through and make it a little easier to read or to view. Okay, and then you have the letter A, which is alignment. Line up elements to create visual structure. Very important because, you know, you're not just slapping on text and imagery, you know, haphazardly. You're not just kind of having it floating around on the page unless it's called for the project itself. But for the most part, you want to set up some type of grid structure or an alignment that you're grouping certain parts of text and imagery together so that your eye, the person looking at it, knows where to look first. You're giving them kind of a pathway to, you know, where the eye should go first, second, third, fourth. It's kind of like hierarchy. If you didn't have that, it may take longer for somebody to view it and to understand what's going on, and they may not even want to look at it at that point. They might not want to spend that time to try to figure out and organize themselves visually of what to look at first, second, third. Maybe it's hard to read. Maybe things aren't grouped together where it makes sense and it reads differently than what it should. So alignment is very, very important when it comes to the principles of graphic design and how you're utilizing that. The last one, P, letter P, is for proximity. And this is kind of a little bit of a hard one to understand and apply, but it's pretty much clumping together related elements so that their spatial relationships organize and emphasize. So this is kind of like a little poster here showing you this little dancing fish, but it's kind of pulling together all of these little icons to bring in together this image of this dancing fish. Also, I'm going to go back here to talk about proximity. Proximity on this example would be kind of grouping together, say, the headline with the image or the graphic, and then below there is the grouping of the subhead, or body copy, I should say. So it's kind of all, you know, kind of spaced out but grouped together. So that's proximity as well. So there's some graphic design tips and tricks that you can think about when you're going forward with your projects. Fonts, so you want to limit the number of fonts on your page. Why is that? Because, you know, if you're using more than 3 fonts on your layout, there's a disconnect that happens. You know, you're not creating this cohesive look, and, you know, it starts to become disconnected and confusing. So you really want to keep the fonts limited. I would say no more than 2, really, but you know, especially if you're only doing a page or like a poster. And then, you know, use a typeface that, if you want to keep it really cohesive, use a typeface that has a type family. And that means it's just basically it has different attributes. So you might have like a light or a bold or condensed or italic. So you can use the same typeface, just have a different style to it. Text on top of high contrast background is difficult to read, so make sure you're aware of that. That's a lot of the times what I see students kind of do and have a mistake on is putting type, like especially body copy, on top of a very busy busy photograph that's not really transparent, and the contrast is too high. It's just too hard to read. KISS, remember that. Keep it simple, stupid. Simple can be beautiful. You know, a lot of the times we have to edit down our work, and it's just part of the process. When you look back at all of your work after working in the field for, say, a year, you're going to say, oh my gosh, now I understand Totally. So sometimes it just takes a while to understand the editing process if you're over designing. So keep it simple. You want to kind of balance that line of simple and boring though. You don't want it to be too simple where it's boring, but you want to keep it visually interesting but simple. Colors, limit your colors. You don't want too much going on unless it calls for it for a project. Again, that just like typography in your fonts, you know, it creates a disconnect if you're, you know, using too many different colors. It's not cohesive. Pick a color scheme. You know, you want to have a theme for most of your projects. You want to have a theme where you're setting a mood. And maybe it's the theme of the brand itself. You know, maybe you're pulling from the logo colors, and that's fine. Or maybe you're, you know, doing a campaign on something that you're pulling from the actual photos being used in the campaign. And then using that cohesively across the campaign. High value colors are high contrast, but also easy to class. So, you know, high value colors are high contrast. So you might want to kind of think about different values that you have within your colors and what you're using it for. Stand out, make your designs unique, distinct, and easily recognizable. Think Nike, Apple, Volkswagen, simple and recognizable. These brands too have been around for a long time. So a lot of these are now represented by one symbol for their logo mark. But they kind of built up to that. You can't typically start a new, if you're designing for a new company, designing a logo for them, and they're not recognized yet, you don't want to start out with an icon logo because nobody's going to know who they are. So you typically want to have the name in there. But that's pretty much the design, graphic design tips and tricks that, you know, kind of keep in mind when you're going forward with your projects. All right, so I'm going to actually take a 5-minute break before we go on, and we'll get into your assignment details. Okay, I'll see you in 5. Okay, looks like 5 minutes is up here. So let's go on with our lecture. We just went over some of the tips and tricks within your projects to think about. Let's talk about spot versus process color. A lot of students are kind of confused about this, and so let's clarify what these actually mean. So spot colors are created without screens or dots, such as those found in the Pantone matching system. You can see the image up there on the top. That's a Pantone swatch palette, typically found in a lot of design agencies. You can purchase these. They're very expensive though. But they pretty much are the industry standard to show spot or solid colors. And from a palette of 18 basic colors, each of the spot colors in the Pantone matching system is mixed according to its own unique ink mixing formula developed by Pantone. So you probably mixed yellow and blue paint to get green in your youth. So creating a Pantone spot color is similar in concept, but with added need for precision. So each color in the system has a unique name or number followed by either a C or a U. The letter suffix refers to the paper stock on which it is printed. So if you have, if it has a C next to it, that represents coated paper, what it looks like on coated paper. And a U, if you have that next to the number, it's representative of the uncoated paper. So that's what it would look like if it was more on a matte paper versus a coated paper, like a glossy paper. And there's big differences in certain hues of how those change side by side. So it's really important to understand what your piece is going to look like. If you picked out or already chosen a paper, maybe you're deciding what paper looks best with the colors that you're using. So that's very important to definitely look at, and that's why the Pantone swatch palette is so nice to have. Also created without screens, Pantone metallic and pastel colors are considered part of the Pantone matching system. So you can have different unique colors, like the pastel you can't typically get unless you use a Pantone color, and metallic, so little metallics. Due to the gamut of the 18 basic colors, some spot colors will be cleaner and brighter than if they were created in the 4-color process described in the next slide. Spot colors are commonly used in corporate logos and identity programs and in 1, 2, or 3 color jobs. So spot colors are typically used, as stated, for corporate logos. And why? Why is that? Because, people pay a lot of money. Businesses pay a lot of money for their logo mark to be created, and they want that logo mark to look the same across all of their design pieces. So ensuring that happens with the color, they want it to be spot on. Say if you're Target and you want that red, that's a specific Pantone mixed red for Target logo. On a lot of the pieces that they put out there for advertising and so forth, they are using that Pantone color all across the board, and it will never change. It will never look different. It will always be that hue. It will never fade. It will never change the shade of it, because the Pantone colors are pre-mixed inks, and they will not look different in any way when printed. That's kind of the pro about that. So there's no differentiation. If you were doing the Target logo in CMYK color and you're printing on different paper and different applications, the CMYK and even on the web press will probably vary in terms of the hue, the dullness, the saturation, the vividness of it. There will be kind of a shift a little bit, so it won't always look the same. It may not look too different, but you might get something that's really off, and you say you're working on a brand logo and somebody sees their logo, say they're using a color blue, and then they expect it to be the same across the board, and then you have it printed on a different piece and it shifts, significantly to maybe a very dull blue. You might have an issue there with, consistency and also your client. So spot colors are good for consistency, because, you will never see a different shade or hue in that color, unless you may use a different paper, but you kind of have that heads up anyway. Process color, which is CMYK, is different in how it's printed, so let's talk about that. So process color is the most common method of achieving color in printing and is referred to as CMYK for color process. You might hear someone say, we're using CMYK color, or we're doing a 4-color process, or 4-C process, or even just process, they might say it. So learn kind of the terminology there. To reproduce a color image, a file is separated into 4 different colors, and that's kind of how it's put together in plates. So cyan is C, representative C, magenta is M, yellow is Y, and black is K. They would have used B, but they wanted to avoid the confusion of B maybe conveying blue, so that's why K is being used for black. During separation, screen tints comprised of small dots are applied at different angles to each of the 4 colors. The screen separations are then transferred to 4 different printing plates, 1 for each color, and run on a printing press with 1 color over printing the next. The composite image fools the naked eye with the illusion of continuous tone. If you were to have a loop, I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's kind of like a glorified magnifying glass. It's strong, a little loop on your eye, and you look at, say, a magazine image, you'll see the little dots. You know, it'll be zoomed in to where you'll actually see the little dots being put, you know, that what makes up that image. So you'll see the CMYK dots. Or a newspaper, you can see probably without using a loop. And that's how you can tell if you're looking at a piece, say a client gives you something and they want to know if that was printed like Pantone or CMYK. Grab the loop, you know, grab the little magnifying glass, see what's in there. You know, if you don't see the dot pattern, it's probably a Pantone color, color process. If you see the dots, it's the process for color process. So process colors are represented as percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Varying the percentages offers thousands of color possibilities. When 4-color process printing is used to reproduce photographs, decorative elements such as borders and graphics can be created out of process colors. This helps to avoid the added expense of an extra plate needed to print each spot color. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up, you know, why would you use Pantone over process? Well, consistency. If you want color consistency, that you want to go Pantone, or spot, I should say. If you don't care about that, you know, maybe you want to go, you know, just do process color. That's could be a little bit more economically friendly to the pocket. Pantone colors, because they're pre-mixed inks, can be expensive, especially if you're using more than 3. It depends on the project, but process is typically cheaper and more economical. So that's kind of the pros and cons of each. Excuse me. Converting spot to process. So oftentimes a spot Pantone matching system color is requested when creating a process printed piece. To save money, the spot color should be evaluated to see how it will look if printed in CMYK. While some colors can be simulated well, there are many that are outside the possible color gamut for that process and will look quite different, as the quality of the resulting color conversion is very subjective. The designer can make decisions using the Pantone Color Bridge Guide as well as the Pantone Extended Gamut Coded Guide. Most Adobe programs can convert spot to process right within the program. I use the Pantone swatch book a lot when I worked for the advertising agencies. We were referred to that pretty much every day because we would be, you know, called upon to do 10 different pieces under the same brand on 10 different applications, paper, and overall purpose. So we wanted to make sure using that book will really help you kind of keep that color cohesive, you know, as much as it can. Okay, Pantone Color Picker. If you are, there's a Pantone Color Finder as well. Find the Pantone color, copy the color code, and find it in Illustrator. So there's color books. I believe this is in in Illustrator here. So Windows, you'll go to Windows, Swatches, Swatches Open, Swatch Library, Color Books. You have the Pantone Solid, Coated, and or Pantone. Let me open up this so you can actually see what we're referring to here. Hold on. But this is where you would find it in Illustrator. Open up Illustrator here. Okay, so if you were looking to find the Pantone swatch library and you are in Illustrator, you will go up to your window, which I know you can't see this menu, but you can see the drop down, and go to Swatches. Okay, so you'll have the swatch panel come up. And then what you want to do is open Swatch Library. Oops. So you want to go to the very top right corner of your palette, where the lines are, and open Swatch Library. Let me move this over so you guys can see it. A little better there. Here we go. And so you want to go to the color books if you're referring to the Pantone color book. And here are your options depending on the color book that you have. And typically what we do is, what we look at is the solid coated or uncoated. These two here are the general two that you use based on the type of paper that you're printing on. But there's other ones too. If you have other color books, you can kind of apply or look at that as well. But so solid coated and then solid uncoated. So when you click on that, this panel will come up. And this is pretty much all of the Pantone colors. You can scroll down and see. And then when you click on one, if you actually just kind of hover your cursor over top, it'll tell you what number it is. So this one that I just selected is Pantone 145C. If you double click on the fill, you can get all the other details in there. Now this is for RGB and CMYK, so the details, obviously are in the color picker, but you can highlight over top and it'll tell you the Pantone color here. And then when you go to swatches, the information is here as well. Okay, hide this. So that is how you get to that. And that's in Illustrator, by the way. It's different in every program. That's Illustrator. Okay, so let's take a look at your assignment 2. I'm actually going to go back to our Canvas area here. So it's kind of is just reiterating everything that we're going to be talking about. So make sure everything is consistent. All right, so you're going to create a campaign component logo and color palette. So within here, we're going to differentiate between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color modes, analyze how color is used to create consistency in a print campaign. All right, so choosing colors for a logo is serious business. Not only do the colors have to look great together, they must be able to be used in multiple places, ways, and color spaces. They must reflect both the business that is being represented by the logo and speak to the potential clients of that business. Here is a fantastic blog on how to make a great logo color selections. Let me click on that, take a look at that. Be sure to review it before heading into the assessment to better understand the psychology and meaning of the colors selected. Consider how you might apply what the author writes about here to your upcoming project. Once you choose a color palette, it is important to remember that different media demands different color system. So for example, promotional products like mugs and pens most often use the Pantone color system, or simple spot colors where websites use RGB colors, and full color printing uses CMYK. When choosing logo colors, a designer has to make sure that the colors translate from Pantone to CMYK to RGB with low to no color variations. So Try to keep it as consistent as you can across the board. That is tough, especially if you get into some of the blues. I remember when I was working for an advertising agency in Ohio, one of our bigger clients was First Energy, and their logo was a specific Pantone blue that actually did not translate very well. Once, say, they wanted a piece printed in CMYK instead of Pantone, their logo looked dramatically different. The color looked different. And that's kind of what you don't want happening if you want that consistency. So, it's always good to kind of think ahead. For some colors, this works very well. A primary yellow color, for example, is very easy to match across the brand, while saturated orange is very difficult to achieve using the CMYK color system. Other colors such as peach, bright red, and reflex blue are nearly impossible to get right in CMYK system of color, while looking terrific on screen, the RGB color system, and on a Pantone swatch. So think about that. You can definitely check out that video below. It will increase your knowledge on color systems at work. It explains the different color systems and some valuables to keep in mind as you're choosing color palettes. Let's go ahead and look at that. We'll review it and then go forward.
Welcome to Course 2, Ink and Color. We're going to cover the basics of ink, Pantone, CMYK, and RGB, what you see on paper versus a computer monitor, and how you can help your clients get the best possible print project. Let's get started. First off, let's talk a little bit about lithography. Offset lithography is a process of printing a lithograph or print on a hard, flat surface. Originally, the printing surface was a flat piece of stone that was etched with acid to form a surface that would selectively transfer ink to the paper. The stone has now been replaced with a metal plate for modern printing presses. Lithography is everywhere. That postcard you received in the mail, a product catalog, your letterhead or business cards, all of it are examples of modern lithography. And there are also many different kinds of inks that are formulated and created for use in lithography or offset printing. Each must work with water properly, maintain proper evenness on press, and dry correctly in a timely manner once printed. This is what ensures a great looking printed piece and is part of the benefit to true lithography. Now, while most inks are oil-based, PFL uses vegetable-based inks such as soy, which are less harmful to the environment than the petroleum-based counterparts, but still maintain vibrant, accurate colors. Soy and vegetable products are used in inks for their oils, which act as a vehicle for the ink pigments. PFL works primarily in the CMYK color space, but we also print using Pantone inks as well. But first, let's take a little closer look at CMYK. The CMYK color space, or cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, is used to create the illusion of different colors and tones, and is created by varying the size and angle of the dots. You can see here with this letter C, when viewed very closely, it is comprised of very small dots at different angles and not just a solid fill of ink. This is different than the RGB color space, which many people are familiar with, as it is what they see on their monitors. Let's go over what makes up the RGB and CMYK color spaces and what things to look out for. RGB, or red, green, and blue, is something we're all familiar with. Anyone who has ever turned on a computer or television has seen RGB colors. RGB is what is known as an additive color mode. It is called additive because the background of a screen is black. The individual LEDs then light up in varying intensity, adding light to black. The variations in intensity of each color determines what color the user sees. CMYK is a subtractive color mode because the paper where it's printed on is white and the ink subtracts from the brightness of the white paper. CMYK also uses secondary colors that are much lighter than those used in RGB because to reproduce the darker colors, you would only need to add more ink. Keep in mind, what you or your client sees on the monitor is not what you will see when printed. The color spaces are two different types, additive and subtractive, one on a computer monitor and one on physical paper. And managing those expectations is key when it comes to these two color spaces and their differences. When possible, working in the CMYK color space in the actual program will help minimize the differences. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. We're more than happy to help. Now let's talk briefly about Pantone. The Pantone solid colors have over 1,000 numbered colors and it was originally devised to help printers and designers specify and control colors for print projects. It is also referred to as PMS for Pantone Matching System or spot colors. It is used primarily in the graphics, print, and publishing industries. We've all seen Pantone colors before. These are used many times to maintain specific brand colors, such as the orange in Home Depot, the red in Coca-Cola, or the green in John Deere, to name just a few. Pantone ink can produce sharp, small colored text and is cost-effective when using only 1 to 2 colors and no images. Additionally, certain colors that cannot be produced using CMYK can be achieved through the use of Pantone. This includes metallic inks, bright oranges, and some greens. So let's recap the main differences between CMYK and Pantone and provide several key tips that will help your clients' print projects be a success. Pantone colors are a set of colors that are standardized across all printers. Pantone colors are pre-mixed with published formulas, and every Pantone color is referenced in a Pantone swatch book. Pantone or spot colors are precise, sharp, and consistent. They are often used in corporate identities and logo designs because Pantone colors are consistent no matter how many copies you make or which printer is printing your design. CMYK colors are great for printing catalogs, brochures, and anything else with a lot of images. There are thousands of different possible CMYK color combinations that makes printing images with CMYK colors a breeze. Also, because CMYK only involves 4 inks, printing with CMYK colors tends to be more cost-effective than with Pantone colors. So in closing, it is important to be aware of the basic differences between ink and color spaces, and know that whether CMYK or Pantone, or helping your client understand the differences between RGB and CMYK, that assistance will guide them to a better printed piece. That concludes our course in ink and color.
Okay, so hopefully that helped visually explain what we just went over, some basics there. All right, so for this assignment, this is the prompt for week 2 assignment. You will create 2 color themes for Aqua Excursion's logo, one utilizing 2 colors and the other utilizing 3 colors. Okay, so you'll have 2 variations. Part 1, so there's different parts to this. Define and apply a color palette to a logo. Download the black and white logo. So go ahead and click on that and download this. Should open up, and it's an AI file. Go ahead and open that up. I'm going to actually open this up, and then we'll go to it in a second here. You're going to create a new 8.5 by 11 Adobe Illustrator document. You're going to utilize Pantone colors to create 2 different, so Pantone colors, key here, to create 2 different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. You might want to even look up kayak brands or logos. Look up images here and check out, you know, what type of colors are being used for some of these logo projects here, from logo marks. Okay. Create 2 set of boxes and fill each box with your chosen colors. Duplicate your swatches and convert the colors to CMYK. Let's see here. Duplicate. Note if the color change is pronounced or minimal. So you'll kind of see a color shift possibly depending on the color you choose. If it is pronounced, consider you choosing a different color. So if you see a big change, say in a yellow or blue, from when you convert it, you might want to kind of revise the color. Open the provided logo in Illustrator, copy and paste the black and white logo into your file, and apply the CMYK values of each theme to the black and white logo you downloaded. And then you'll save your file as DES114, assignment 2, first and last name. So that's the first part of it. And we'll go through that step by step here in a second. Part 2, don't forget, is a written rationale. So you're going to write a 150 to 200 word rationale in Word that explains the reasons why you chose the colors in each theme. And you're going to save that as a Word doc file here. When you submit them, create a folder called, and then have this name here. Put your Word document with rationale and PDF of your logos with color themes into this folder. Zip the folder and upload the zip files. Okay, so there's two parts, written and then also your actual project itself. So let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. I just opened up that logo that I downloaded, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay, this is what the logo is going to look like when you open it. And you can actually click into each of these parts of the logo to access the actual shapes to fill it with the different color. Okay, so your job is to come up with a good color combination, two good color combinations that are appropriate, that looks, you know, different from each other too. Okay, once you have the logo open, just go File, New in Illustrator, and we're gonna make sure that this is 8.5 by 11. Okay. Okay, and then we're gonna do just a copy, select all, copy. Just get rid of that one. And paste. So we're gonna paste this into our new document. And I'm going to do an Alt drag. Okay, so I have my two different logo marks ready to go. Now I have to do two sets of boxes. So I'm going to go up to that square box here, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key and draw just like one little box. And then do the Alt drag so that you have, you know, duplicates of that same square. Alt drag. Make sure you have snap to align, so these are all lined. If you don't, you want to change that, and how you would do that is go up to View, Guides, Snap Point, Snap to Grid is what you'll need. You can also align these as such. If you select the top ones, go up to Window, and what you're going to do is choose Align, and you can align these based on how you want to align them. Maybe you want to make sure the spaces in between are exact. It looks like they are not right now. It looks like this is wider. Let me zoom in here so you can see. Then over on this side. So, we'll want to do the horizontal center here. Same thing with this one. Okay. And then you can align these on the left, align these on the right. Center those. Okay, that looks good. So this one we'll say has the three colors underneath here. And then I'll do an Alt drag and pull this down. I'm going to just eliminate the two squares, okay? And I'll show you why I did that. Pull this up a little bit. Pull this down. You don't want it too close to the logo, but you want it to be next to it for sure. Oops. Make sure when you're moving these, you're not moving the actual logo itself and mixing it up there. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to save it at this point. So DES114 assignment 2, first and last name. So save this as an AI file to my desktop. Okay. Then it says utilize Pantone colors to create two different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. So go ahead and choose your colors. And again, go up to Window and go to Swatches, or this would be Pantone colors. So what we want to do is go to Swatches and then open Swatch Library. We want to go to Color Books, and we want to go to, I'm going to do Pantone Solid Coated. And then I'm going to have to kind of play around with it. What colors could this be? You know, maybe we'll try you know, obviously they have to look good together too. Maybe I'll do something like this, where it's more on the cool side. Okay. And then maybe actually, this is what I'll do. I'll just grab these two. I'll drag them down here. But I want this to be my lighter color, so go to swatches. I'm gonna add this to my, oh, it's already added, okay. Good, all right. So it's already added in here, I just have to change it. So, you know, what would this look like in this color? So let's go see what it would look like in that color. Actually, I'm gonna do this opposite. This dark, here we go. All right, and then this one. Would look like that because it's just using those two colors. Okay. So this would be an example of something that you could do depending on, you know, the brand. I'm just using these cooler colors, except for the yellow, it's a little warmer. And then I'm copying this color and this color for the second variation. You could try something completely different for the second one, that's fine, as long as it's a fit, you know, fit for the actual brand. Okay, so then it says copy paste black letter. Apply the CMYK values of each theme to the black and white logo you downloaded. So, you know, you can convert this by just, let me see, clicking on the actual, and it looks like it converted it anyway. You have the color mode that you want to set it to and just choose CMYK. There you go. So instead of spot, we went process. Click OK. Okay, choose these two, double click, CMYK. Oops. And then we want process color. And see if it changes, like the color changes itself. If it does, it looks really off from the original, I would definitely choose a different color. That one doesn't seem too bad. So that's kind of how you would change that. Convert it, I should say. Process color. So not too much of a change, but definitely good to see how to convert it. And that's pretty much it. And then save it as a PDF. I'm going to center this a little bit because it's kind of off. Save it as a PDF. Oh, cancel that one. Looks good. Click save, and then you'll write your paper, your rationale, 150 to 200 word rationale, and then you'll zip the PDF and that Word file together. And how you would do that is, if you're on a Mac, let's see here. I don't have the actual paper, but I have the PDF here. You'll click onto both of your files, so shift select your document, your Word document, and then also your PDF. And then as you shift select those icons, do an Alt Option click. Oh, I'm sorry, Control click, and then you're going to compress that into a zipped folder. And I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. I just opened up the PDF here. I share my desktop so you guys can see what I'm doing. So this is the PDF. And let's pretend that I don't know, this is the Word document. So you'll just select both of these, shift select, and then hit control click on top, and then you'll say compress. And that'll create your zipped folder. And this is what you'll submit. You don't have to name this that real long DES1. All you have to do is just have maybe your last name, because once I open it, I'll see that your files are named as such. Okay? Throw this out here. But this is the PDF that I just did. If I double click on it, you know, go ahead and see how it looks in the PDF. You don't really want to base color through a PDF. PDFs are notorious for not being something that you need to look off of for color purposes, color checking. But at least you'll know that it opens and, you know, looks decent in terms of the presentation. Okay, so you're going to zip it, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about that, let me know going forward. But I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It'll be fun to see what you guys, your different color schemes here, what you choose. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You guys will be cranking on that. I don't think it'll take you too long. The assessment is a poster, which will be fun. You're going to create an 11 by 17 document using a design only with 0.125 inch bleed. Use the strongest, most viable color theme for your logo assignment this week. Create a poster that will promote the Aqua Excursion Sunset Paddle Adventure. You must incorporate the following: final color Aqua Excursions logo. Choose your strongest color combination and create a file in Illustrator. Create a file in Illustrator of the logo alone. Crop tightly, CMYK. Up to 2 images from the zip file, Sunset Paddle images view in a new window, a headline, body copy, call to action. Let me actually go to the folder in Canvas to see. Assessment, create a poster. I'm going to have you guys read through this stuff. That's pretty basic. I'm going to go to the prompt here. Excuse me. So using the strongest, most viable color, we already said this, create a poster that will promote this Aqua Excursion Sunset Paddle Adventure. You must have the final color Aqua Excursions logo. Choose your strongest color combination. Up to 2 images from the zip file. So you'll click on that and upload that. See what's in there. And then the headline, body copy, and call to action are all given to you. This is typically how it happens in the world here. Typically, clients will hand you everything that you need. Not all of them, but they'll say, I want this, 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 and this, and they'll have all their minds up. So this is kind of giving you a good practice in that. All right, so body copy, call to action, that's all the stuff that needs to be in there. InDesign, it has to be done in InDesign. Finished size is 11 by 17. We already choose that. Yeah. Bleed is 0.125. Color space CMYK. All images converted to CMYK is pre-press requirement. All images placed at correct resolution for print, 300 pixels per inch, 100%. All spot colors converted to CMYK. Live area applied properly. No important text or elements too close to the trim. Bleeds correctly implemented. Document package for print. All right, and we'll go through the submission requirements here. Let's go ahead and start this 11 by 17 assessment. Bring this over so I can cross-check it here. Okay, so I would do a file new. This is Illustrator. I need to get into InDesign. My apologies. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Oh, no, I'm sharing my screen. Let me share my InDesign screen here. There we go. Okay. So go into InDesign, go File, New, Document. And you want uncheck facing pages. You don't need that. Print's fine. Number of pages, 1 and 1. 11 by 17. If you have it in inches, you If you don't, you need to go to your preferences and change it in your units increments. Orientation looks good. The bleed needs to be 0.125 across the board. Looks good. And click OK. All right, so this is your point. You know, you definitely should download that folder of images. Let me show you what's on there. That's in the assessment too. Here's the folder I just downloaded, so you'll see these images here. So you're going to decide which image you want to use, but you need to use up to 2 images. Okay. Assuming that means at least 2. All right, so let's get the party started here. I would say if you just want to use 1 image, that's fine. You don't have to use 2. I'm going to take my, my rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to start where the bleed is. So right in the upper hand corner of that red line is your bleed and end at the very bottom. And this is just so I can place a full 1 image here that bleeds off. So Command D is file place. And then I'll go and find those images in that folder. And I want my image to be a focal point. Let me choose this one here. All right, so to make sure this looks good, I'm going to go up to View, Display Performance, and make sure this is high quality. That looks good. And then look at your picture. Is it placed in 100%? Double click. Yep, 100%, 100%. I can probably do some shifting here because I have some, you know, on the left side. Whatever is in the red bounding box is showing me how big the actual image is. It might not show on the artboard. All right. Now we need to get the logo in there. So we're going to go back to Illustrator. And this might not work on top of this. We'll have to see. We might need to make this darker, actually. So I'm going to do a little bit of an alteration here because now that I'm looking at my picture, I want this to be a little different here. And then, oh, this can be darker. This has to be lighter because it's only 2. Okay. So I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to create a new artboard. So the one that you want, you think is going to work the best, go ahead and copy that, create a new artboard, completely separate file here, paste it in. And what I would do is I would actually save this out as a ping file. All right, so I would go File, Save As. First I would save it. Make sure I know where it's at. This might not work on my picture I chose, but I'll just change it. Then I'll go out as Export, File, Export As, and choose Ping, and export. Make sure this says high resolution, 300 pixels per inch, click OK, and transparent is important as well. All right, so let's go back to your InDesign layout. Like I said, this logo might not work for this, so I might have to choose a different image. But I'm going to draw this little rectangle frame tool from my left to the right margin, do Command D. I'm going to find that ping image that I just did. And the ping image allows you to bring in the logo without having issues with a block behind it. Okay, all right, then I'm gonna go back to my assessment 2 specifications. I'm gonna copy and paste the headline in, just very quickly here, and then body copy. Do a separate box for that, and then call to action. So think about the principles of design, you know, as you're putting this in here. I'm going to swap this. I'm going to put this down here. And I'm actually going to swap this picture too, because I don't think it's working for this. Let me see. Maybe better like, no. Let's see. Oops. What am I doing? There we go. Let's try this again. And then send it back. Oops. This actually doesn't look bad. Let me go back to the other one, because I think this actually works pretty good with the logo up above here. So I'm just going to work with that. Okay. And then I'm going to make, I would choose a typeface that's pretty similar to what you have there. Very cohesive. So a sans serif thicker typeface would be appropriate. Actually, let me get my character box. Character, here we go. Might pull a little bit better here. Make it large because it's a headline. Let's do maybe, almost looks like a Futura. Let me see. Thicker one. EF, there we go. So I just use a condensed medium. We could do an extra bold. That kind of looks very similar. And then Futura for the regular typeface there. Make it a little bigger. All right. And then the call out. Usually the call out's at the bottom or the bottom right, depending on where you're doing it. This one heavy and centered. So I'm going to go with the focal point and the centered look here. Make this all caps, different. And I'm going to spread it out a little bit. So I'm going to take the kerning out a little bit. There we go. I could do a thin rectangle strip. Just make sure you're using that bleed. That will pull from this color here. Take the highlighter. Keep it consistent. You want that brand to kind of come through. And then I would make this white. And I probably would make this a little smaller, 14 maybe, point size. Because you don't want it to be too clunky and big looking. Sleek and sophisticated, like this guy is in here in the river or body of water. I'll pull this up just a little bit more up above here. Okay. Maybe I'll pull it down because I think I need some stuff down here. That's right on that margin. I'm going to center this type box, maybe. I'm going to make this I'm going to make this white. You can kind of play around with this. If you want to do one column of type or two, just make sure it's not too long, you know. We get to the point where it's over 72 characters and there's an issue. I'm going to get this a little smaller here. Okay. If you wanted to try to like center that, because it's similar to what you have been doing for your elements, you can definitely center that. And just a little trick here, a couple things. You could do a drop shadow, so go up to effects, object effects, drop shadow. Throw a slight drop shadow back there, or to get that so it's readable, or you could take your gradient tool here. Actually, let me do sort of a rectangle. And I'm going to fill this with black. I'm going to take my gradient feather tool. And then click down below and bring up, sorry. All right, so this will kind of allow you to make sure the type's in front to see a little bit better. You can pull that all the way up if you want to get that dramatic look about it. Okay, let's hide. Let me go to print preview so you guys can see what this looks like. Bring this down a little bit. And there should be a period here. And I'm going to adjust this so there's no hyphen. Oh, okay. I would probably separate these two. And I would make this a little bit bigger. Maybe 18 or 16. Maybe do medium type family. And then for this one, I'd probably make it a little smaller. So like 12, maybe even 11 is good. And I'm doing that just to kind of get hierarchy built up here because kind of lose that here. There we go. See how now it reads together, but you have a little bit more of an importance on the top text, and then this is kind of secondary here, even though it's bold and thicker. Okay, so it's kind of grouped together. A little bit more space in there. Okay, and then the next thing is the headline. I'm going to select all, I'm going to center that and kind of decide what you want to do. You can have this here so it reads with the actual ad itself. See what the italic looks like. I'll probably make this logo a little bit smaller. I don't want it to be super huge, just big enough to see. Okay, so I can use the same colors I did in my logo here for that. All right. I'm going to save this. So kind of choose your grid structure here, what you want to do for your, how to organize everything. Choose the colors that you think would work best. You might want to look at the imagery first and go from there. Now I could probably swap this out and do, instead of this dark black, I can change this to white, and then that way, let me show you what I'm doing here. We could bring the logo down. You could see it a little bit better because there's more contrast there. There we go. So that might work. And then the copy, I could break up into sections as well. I just want to make sure that, get rid of this drop shadow here. So go up to type when I check that box where my type is in there, and then I go to hold on guys. Oh, you go to object, text frame options is what you want. Break that up into 2 columns and click OK. I'm going to take the effects off here. What I did. Okay, and then obviously I can't read it, so I'm going to have to change it to that color. The logo, pull that in. There you go. And then decide how you want to kind of pull this together. You can have the logo down here and the body copy up here. Just make sure it's readable when it works. This is a little hard to read, so maybe we'll just group that with this information. I'm going to go back and change my text frame options to 0 or 1. Okay. And then I could also pull this apart, just take that off. Make this a little longer. Group it together, and then go ahead and do your line of small copy, and I could put that all in one line. Put one in. You can also put this here. You can also put a drop shadow on the actual logo. I would keep it very, very light though. So if you were to do something, I would do very light type of a drop shadow. Okay. Pull this down a little bit. Okay, so that could be, I don't know if I like that drop shadow on there. I'm going to get that off. It actually doesn't look too bad on there. Maybe I'll leave that. Doesn't look too bad. All right, and then when you're done, file save. So make sure you're showing your CRAP principles of design in your layout as well, color, keeping it consistent. You're going to export this out as a PDF. You could do smallest file, that's fine. Desktop, good. What do we, replace this here. Oh no, I don't want to replace that. Name it something different here. Export. And once you're done with that, here's the PDF. And this is your other PDF for your logos. So you have two PDFs. But for the assessment, you won't have to worry about that. Just, this ad is sufficient enough, okay? All right, let's go back to your submission requirements because I want to go over a few things. So submission requirements, you're going to name your file as such in InDesign. So this is for your ad. Export the InDesign file to a press quality PDF. I'm going to show you how to do that. Include crop marks and bleeds. Note this is a different setting than print quality. Package. Once we're done with that, we're going to package the InDesign file and zip the package folder in folder InDesign creates. Note sure that there are no errors in the report. If there are, fix them or repackage for submission. Submit the press quality PDF with the file name. Submit the zipped package folder with the file name. Last zip. Okay, so let me show you how to do that real quick. Let me open up InDesign again. So when you're done and you're ready to go, you're going to go File, Export, PDF Presets, Press Quality, Desktop. I'm going to replace that. And then in here, just pay attention to options included. Marks and bleeds, my apologies. So we just want include crop marks and bleeds. Okay, so we want crop marks and bleeds, and they're under the marks and bleeds. And then hit export. And then before we even, actually let me open that. I don't know where that's saved to. Let me do this again. File, export, press quality. I think I put that. Oh, desktop, good. Final, okay. There we go. Okay, we'll take a look at that in a second here. I think it's just still going. The next part of this is package the InDesign file and zip the package folder InDesign creates. Make sure that there are no errors in the report. Submit the press quality PDF with the file name. So there's going to be two things that you're going to be doing. Okay, so go up to File and Package. And when you hit Package, this is pretty much telling you everything within this file, your fonts, your links, your images. If there's any issues, it'll tell you here. Mine looks pretty good. CMYK, good. and then hit package. Continue, continue desktop. Let's make sure all these are checked and click package. Try to scan desktop. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to share my desktop, and I just want to show you really quick how, oh, there it is. I had that there the whole time. This is the package folder that you just did, and that will include your InDesign file, your fonts, little text, information, and links. So that looks good. And then the press quality PDF with the printing marks and bleed should look like that. You should have 2 of these. So at this point, what you're going to do is select your packaged folder. If you're on a Mac, choose Option, click, and then just do compress. And then this is your zipped folder. So what you're going to do at this point is submit these two together. Now, so when I open it, I can see your printed, PDF, press quality PDF, and then your packaged folder. Okay, well, I hope that kind of clarifies some things. I'm going to be wrapping it up because our time is coming to a close now. But hopefully you guys will totally, kind of rock this out of the park, because I think the assignment 2 will be a fun thing for you guys to play around with, and then putting it into the ad itself will be definitely an experiment. You might need to go back to change your colors depending on what kind of the image that you want to work with. So you might kind of be going back and forth depending on the colors that you choose. Just make sure it's appropriate for the brand and that you can see it on the image. You can read the logo. There's enough contrast there. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. If you have any questions, let me know. I will be here tomorrow evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time for the multi-session. So if you want to bring anything in to talk about or review anything, I'll be there. And I hope you guys have a great week. I will be seeing you in the discussion boards, and hopefully talk to you tomorrow. All right, have a great day.